Hello and welcome back to the Natural Wellness Tips podcast. This is your host, Dr. Jennifer Shaw. Super excited to be here with you guys today, as always. Today, I'm doing something a little different. Usually it is me and then me interviewing guests, but today I have a co-host. I have my amazing partner, Dr. Owen, and we are going to dive into so many amazing things. We're going to talk about kind of what drew us to each other as far as our relationship and how that started, and some of the things that we find key and essential in creating clear communication, reaching towards our goals, and working together to live and create the dream life that we are working towards each and every day. So we're excited to dive in for sure, and it's just going to be fun because I talk about this amazing guy on the podcast all the time, but I thought it'd be fun for you guys to meet him. So before I let Owen dive in and we start having an awesome conversation here, which he has no idea what we're going to talk about, we're just going to kind of free for all. I've got some ideas of things I wanted to chat about, but it's going to be really just like raw conversation between the two of us. But before I do that, I want to thank you guys so much for coming to the podcast. It means the absolute world to me that you take time out of your day and you trust me to help you live a healthier, happier life. My ultimate goal is to help you create simple, sustainable, healthy habits. I want health to be simple for you guys. And that is what this show is all about. If we haven't connected on Instagram, please head over, say hello, Natural Wellness Tips. Drop a message in my DM. Let me know what you think, what you like, what's going on, what you want to hear more of. It means the world to me, and it always helps me show up and give you guys the episodes that you need. And if you haven't followed me on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and do that so you get notified each week when I drop a new episode. I'd love to see a review over there too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, if you guys are watching on YouTube and you're actually seeing the video, then you guys might notice that we're kind of like sitting in a weird location with some interesting lighting. We are on vacation in Puerto Vallarta because, that whole work-life balance, we get to work and play. It's kind of amazing. So we're spending some time down here with family. And we decided while we were here that it was wonderful to do this episode together. So enough of me chatting. I know I've shared a lot about Owen through the podcast, but we met about 2 years ago, and he's an absolutely incredible man, and I am blessed every day to call him my partner. But I want to kind of chat about some things, like I said, that can help bring some light to your life, your relationships. But my first kind of question I have for you, babe, is I want to share with the audience a little bit about what was your initial draw. We're both doctors of physical therapy, and I was living a very different lifestyle than you when we met. And what was that initial draw of, seeing my lifestyle versus yours? What was that like for you?
What do you mean initial draw towards your lifestyle being appealing, or you being appealing as a partner,
The
or lifestyle?
Yeah.
Well, when I first heard about Jen, it was in a yoga class, and she had shared a little bit. Yeah, I think in the beginning of class, she was a DPT, as well as she doesn't practice anymore, and she runs her own self and wellness business, health and wellness business. And so then I approached her after class and wanted to learn more. And so needed to spend a little bit more time. So we went and got some tea and talked business. And I found out that she was able to travel whenever and wherever she wants to. And she's continuing to build. She doesn't just like cap out a certain, amount of income. She has potential for continual growth. But I think it was mostly the travel thing and the carefree lifestyle that you lived that really attracted me, because the reason why I moved down to San Diego to work for Kaiser is so that I could have more vacation time and have more time to do so. But really, I'm still limited to like a month. I think I cap out at like 2 months a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, when you work, if you guys work 9 to 5s, that I've worked 9 to 5. Your vacation allotment is limited to what your company provides for you, right? And by creating my own business, my vacation allotment is whatever I want it to be. I mean, yeah, I'm in Puerto Vallarta for a week with family, but I wake up and I do about an hour of work. And now we're recording our podcast here, and then I'll do about an hour of work before I go to bed. But in the middle of the day, I get to go deep sea fishing or rock climbing or whatever adventure we want to go on as a family. And that's a choice. I could take the whole week off if I want, but I love what I do. And I love that I get to do it wherever I go. So that's kind of an amazing thing that um, that is the benefit of the work that I've put into building this business that I have, right? So this is kind of a fun question. So now that we're together, right, and you kind of saw it from the outside, we built a friendship first, and now that we're together, what is it like being in a 9 to 5, dating somebody that has the freedom that I have and the schedule that I have? What is that like? I've never really asked you that.
Um, it's not really too much anything different. I mean, I spend time with you when I can, and I work when I need to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with any other like partner relationship, I mean, that's pretty much the way it happened. They would work certain times, I'd work at certain times, and then we would get together and do our things together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not too much different. I mean, other than the fact that you can travel whenever and wherever you want, and that's totally fine. I feel like some partners would be like threatened by that and be jealous and try and like drag you down and give you like issues about it. But I mean, if you travel, that's cool. Like if you go on solo trips, business trips, whatever, it's perfectly fine with me. Like, I mean, I'll get to enjoy time with my friends. I have a lot of other hobbies and stuff like that that I participate in that, I'll get to enjoy it. I'll miss you, but I'll get to enjoy. But that's really the only things that I can really think of. Other than that, it's no difference to me, other than the fact that I kind of wish I was in your shoes and then we could travel more often together. But that's about it. But then again, too, we also have quite a few advantages to our current situation right now, with you being an entrepreneur, me being a practicing physical therapist, 9 to 5 sort of a thing, which we could discuss later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's cool. It definitely, I always say every strength is a weakness, every weakness is a strength, right? Every pro is a con, every con is a pro, depending on how you look at it. And having the balance of both right now to help us reach some of our goals is kind of awesome. And that kind of, you naturally segued me to my next question, babe. Thank you. But our ultimate goals are like our bigger goals are kind of exciting. And prior to you, I wasn't really sure that I'd be able to find somebody that was able to dream as big as me. If you guys have ever done Gallup Strength Finders, there's 34 strengths, and you get them ranked according to this little like quiz you take, and you have like a top 5 and a bottom 5 and everything in between. But my number one strength is futuristic, and the goal of Gallup is to teach you to lean into your strengths. So one thing that I do better than most people is I can look into the future and see what is attainable, right? And I wasn't ever sure that I'd be able to find somebody that was able to dream as big as me. Past relationships, a lot of time in their minds were spent in the past, reminiscing and things like that. And I don't reminisce much. I'm not super nostalgic. I'm always looking at like, how can I be the best version of myself today? How can I move forward? How can I be a healthier, happier person? How can I show up better for those that I love? And where am I working towards, right? So that idea of being futuristic, and I never thought I'd be able to find somebody truly that had that same vision as me, and you do, which is wonderful. We set goals together, intentions together. We have action plans. We work towards the things that are important to us. And there's kind of this saying and idea out there that if there's 2 people focusing on the same goal, it's not 2 times as powerful. It's almost like 10 times as powerful. So I know that even in the time we've been together, we're attracting so much amazing things into our lives. And we have those bigger dreams and goals. So, one of our dreams is to be a full-time family, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to bring you home. But do you want to kind of elaborate on what that looks like for you, as far as, your dreams of where we want to go with like business and life and some of the things we want to accomplish?
Sure. Well, I mean, our ultimate goal is financial freedom, meaning we don't really like, costs are never going to be an issue. We'll be able to travel whenever, wherever we want. We'll be able to work from wherever. I mean, hopefully, minimally, after we kind of pick up as much momentum as we can. So we're going to have to work as hard as we can to get there. It'll be a short-term, intense investment, and then after that point, we'll just be able to maintain. And maintaining is a lot easier than building. I mean, even like with like physiques, muscle structure, I mean, you got to put in, 5 to 6 days a week at the gym. You want to maintain 2-3 days at the gym, only half an hour instead of like 1 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I mean, very similarly, that is the ultimate goal, and what we're working toward. I'm pretty futuristic too, just like Jen. I mean, I think you got to be in order to earn like a doctorate, or I mean, even a master's degree, anything that takes you, more than 5 years. You got to be at least a little futuristic towards. So, as far as that's concerned, I mean, I definitely do, and I think she does too. We kind of talk about these things, and I've never been somebody that's been able to create like relationship goals, but we have relationship goals, and they're not just the long-term goal of, oh, financial freedom. How are we going to get there? We also have short-term goals too, and then kind of intermediate goals, and then long-term goals, sort of a thing. So usually short-term goals are within a couple of months, like 6 months to a year, and then long-term goals are usually between like 3 and 5 years, sort of a thing.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love that we do, because I do this for myself, but I've never been able to do this with the partners, um, we set actionable steps to those goals. Because that's the important part about setting goals, right? Like you can set goals till you're blue in the face. But if your goal is, I want to make $1 million, and then you just sit back and, you know, don't do anything, you're never going to make that $1 million, right? But for us, there's actionable steps. There's things that we're doing on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly basis. And you keep segueing me. I kind of wrote a little notes out before we recorded of ideas that I wanted to kind of chat about, and he's literally segueing me into these topics. This is how much we think alike. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, this idea of like, what do we do in those actionable steps to create the habits that we want, to create the goals and the forward progress that we want to reach our bigger goals. And we as couple, we individually have habits and routines that help us get there, but as a couple also we kind of do. So I know which ones are important to me. But what are some of the things that we do as a couple that you would say, even just individually, like what are some of the habits that we have that you think are important or imperative in helping us reach our health, our wealth, and our relationship goals?
Well, definitely. I mean, to quote Joe Rogan on here, for our actionable steps as well as goals, we write it down, which is actually, I feel very important. And that's something that I did actually get from Joe Rogan, and something that I still practice to this day. And we do it too, like as far as like our short-term goals, which was for the year, kind of like New Year's resolutions. Well, we didn't do a New Year's resolution. We set specific goals for personal development in mind, body, spirit, and emotional goals.
Financial too.
Financial too.
Mm-hmm.
Individually a little bit, but mostly goals together for us to achieve together. And we wrote down the actionable steps that we're going to take to get there. And then we also wrote down the rewards, how we're going to reward ourselves to get there. And then also we added an accountability, how we're going to keep each other accountable, how we're going to keep ourselves accountable, how are we going to do all that stuff. As far as like healthy habits are concerned, one of the things that our relationship, I feel like, is founded on good sleep hygiene.
Mm.
So when Jen told me that she goes to bed early, meaning between like 8 and 10 p.m. every night, I was just like, yes. Like seriously, I was more stoked than that, because I've never been with a partner that goes to bed early. I mean, me, when I was in the college days, I worked at a casino as a blackjack dealer, and I worked graveyard shifts, and then I went to school during the day. So I just kind of slept whenever I could. And that was the most miserable time of my life, not just because school was rigorous and basically sucked, but also too, that I realized I didn't want to have any randomized sleep schedule ever again in my life. So as soon as I finished with college, I went to bed usually between 7 and 10 p.m. every single night. And like, even my previous partner, her name was also Jen. Like, for an example, she was like, "You're not going to stay up late?" Nope. Any nights, not even the weekends. I said, "Hey, Friday, Saturday, same as Monday."
Mm-hmm.
No
exceptions.
no exceptions.
Yeah, so we definitely, I think that sleep and nutrition are huge foundations for your overall health and wellness, right?
Yeah, nutrition, exercise.
Yeah, you need to move your body. You need to be, those are the biggest things. I always say it's like those I have four that I always talk about, right? It's sleep, it's eating window, and nutrition, which we both are very specific in that. It's moving your body, and it's drinking enough water, and that those are four things that we don't sway on. And I think that's so imperative, because we wake up each morning without alarms, ready for the day. We know what we're doing. We have our to-do lists. We have our organization. We have clear communication around that, which I'll talk about in a second. But I want to ask you a question. What is the first thing you do in the morning when you get out of bed?
When I get out of bed,
Yeah.
I make the bed.
He makes the bed. I asked him that before we started dating. Why do you make the bed every morning?
Well, it's something I started doing when I was in college, just because I liked my personal space to be in order, instead of chaotic. So when I started doing it in college, I was like, why haven't I been doing this all these years? And I was taking like a behavioral psychology class, and I realized like how to add behaviors to your life, how to add basically healthy habits to your life, and the steps that you take to do them. And that was a behavior that I created when I was in college. And yeah, she did ask me when we first started dating about that, and I was like, of course I make the bed. Don't know why I didn't do it for all the years, but my parents always wanted me to, but I just never did, without being hassled.
You always say you can't change the world if you don't make your bed, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, how do you expect to change the world if you don't make your bed? So there's a very good book about that too, which Jen actually had me read. And I was like, Jordan Peterson also puts it really good too. Like, how do you expect to change the world when you can't even keep your own house in order? Like, if you don't clean your room, how do you expect to go clean somebody else's room? You can't.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And I think those little things, it's called literally Make Your Bed, is the book that is great. And then Jordan Peterson's is the 12 Rules of Life. Right, 12?
Yep, 12 Rules of Life.
I was like, is it 10 or 12? 12 Rules of Life. But yeah, those they both discuss that. And I think it's so imperative. Like even traveling this week, we have, our shoes are lined up, our bags are unpacked, our stuff is organized, very easy to reach for, and no clutter, because when we go to bed, we want that organization, we want that clear mind. And it's really hard to live without that clear space, that safe sanctuary to go to bed. I always say your bedroom is for two things. It's for sleep and for intimacy, and that is it. It's not for watching TV. It's not for, and I guess maybe a third is like a deep conversation, like kind of that, like reading books and things like that. But definitely not for distractions, not for eating, not for anything other than that space, right? And we hold it very sacred. We both did hold it very sacred, and then it's beautiful because then together we hold that sacred, and it's a nice balance that we have. I love that about us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so communication's key. I talk a ton about open communication. You guys have followed me. If you followed me for a while, I came from a relationship where communication wasn't, I almost want to say loud. And when you are with someone with a high conflict personality disorder, your communication is so boggled and so difficult and so challenging. So when we started dating, we got very intentional with our communication very early. And it was actually challenging in the beginning because we don't sweep things under the rug. We don't avoid hard conversations. We often ask each other how we're doing emotionally. Like we really dive into everything. We don't hide. I tell him, like I said to him, I have told you everything that I can think that there is to know about me. And the only things I haven't told you yet are the things that I haven't realized that I haven't told you yet, right? There's nothing I hide. There's nothing I'm like, oh, I don't want to tell Owen that. Or even if I don't want to tell you something, it's usually something I need to tell you most, right? It's kind of like when I'm like scared to tell you, and it always ends up being fine because we have open communication. But we created a little policy in the beginning of our relationship. And I think it's so important I know we kind of run our relationship very emotionally and business wise. So it's why we do well in business together, and our relationship prospers so much. But we have a zero resentment policy. Zero resentment. What does that mean?
Well, it was actually pretty funny. We kind of created it. We said zero resentment is our motto, our mission statement, is a couple on a mission to have zero resentments for the rest of our lives. And what that entails is that we don't harbor any resentments. I mean, it's just that easy. We talk about them as soon as we possibly can. When we're wrong, promptly admit it. Um, or if you know something is bothering us, we communicate about it. It could be as simple as something like, I don't know what I'm feeling right now, but I don't feel good. And that happens to me quite often. I mean, particularly with kind of the society that we live in, how I grew up, stuff like that. And typically the only emotion that I'm allowed to feel that is socially acceptable is anger, because that's what that only men only experience anger, apparently. So for the longest time, I'm getting a lot better at it, I feel like, anyways, particularly with you, at identifying what the emotion I'm feeling, where it's coming from. Typically it's old previous traumas, patterning, stuff like that. And then we're able to kind of work it out together. So, I mean, whether or not it takes just a minute or two, or it's not even a big deal, most times it's not even a big deal. We make up these big deals in our heads because of previous patternings and traumas and being shamed and, you know, all those negative energy types. So with us, we both hold space for each other. We don't blow out all our steam throughout the day on other people, other things, other places. We save space for the other person to kind of spill into, that we can kind of reserve, hold, and then therefore it gives them the ability to feel safe to communicate anything and everything.
Yeah, and one of the things that we always say to each other when we're about to have those hard conversations is, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm committed. Like, this is not like I'm not going anywhere. Exactly what that means. And I think one of the things that blew my mind with our relationship was, previously I'd kind of have stories in my head. I'm like, oh, well, that's like, you know, maybe it's something simple. I'm trying to think of any example. Oh, this is kind of like just a fun one. Like, he has the most adorable dog, and the dog before me slept in bed, and I don't do well with that. And I really just like my space. But old me would have just kind of sucked it up and been like, well, this is what he does. Just, you know, accept it, get along with it. Like, no big deal. Right. But she slept in bed with us one night, and it made me uncomfortable. And the next day I was like, kind of just clarified that wasn't something that I was comfortable with. And I was worried that he was going to think that was like such a big deal, and it was going to be this big problem between us. And really it was like, oh, great. No, that's fine. I can just set up the crate and she can sleep in that. And from that day on, she did. But if I hadn't have said anything, imagine like 6 months later of the dog nudging up against me while I'm sleeping, waking me up, making me feel uncomfortable. And then I get mad at him 6 months in because I didn't say anything, but the dog's still sleeping in the bed. How is he supposed to know that that was something I wasn't comfortable with? Where I just said something about it right away before it was a thing. And it never became a thing. And now Lucy sleeps in her crate and it's wonderful, right? So we were able to come to a resolution for the two of us because I was able to speak about it. So I guess what I'm saying here is, like, you have to say what's on your mind. You have to tell your partner cannot read your mind. They know them, I know me, but we have to figure out us. And the only way that we can do that is through those conversations.
Yeah, I'll give an example really quickly. So prior to Jen, I was dating another girl, and I could tell by her body language, her comments, her, you know, size and whatever. Angst.
Oh, we all know that, right? But like, what's wrong? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly, nothing. And it was the same thing, Lucy in the bed sort of thing. And I was just like, do you want me to put her in the crate? She's like, oh no, it's fine. I was like, okay. And she's an animal person, dog person. So I was like, cool. You know, she even took like dogs on the news, like for to be adopted and stuff like that. Like, that was one of her things she did with passion. So I was like, okay, well, must not bother her then. And then, but you know, the kind of the things continued, which are just really resentments each time. Resentment, even though it's the same exact topic. Another resentment, every night. Another resentment. Sweep under the rug. It's nothing. So she blows up, gets angry, paces around, cries, and leaves. You know, where'd that come from? But there was even a time where I actually put Lucy in the crate. I put her in the crate. Next morning, I was like, there was no feedback from that. There wasn't like, oh, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Jen gave me that feedback. I got no feedback. I even asked her about it. And she was like, oh, it's fine. The same way she said it was fine, her sleeping in the bed. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to let her keep sleeping in the bed then. So kept letting her do it. Things continued. Put her in the crate again. No feedback. All right, I'm done trying. Not going to do it. You can just sleep in the bed because I'm getting no feedback. And then, she just kept blowing up, exploding. And not just because of that, but because multiple other resentments that were going on, building up conversations that she didn't feel safe that she could have with me or that we could actually resolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the key of like, it's not the one, it's like, if we can just say one thing when it's little and it doesn't become a big thing, then it can be resolved. But if we wait and we wait and we wait because we don't want to offend anyone, we want to make people feel comfortable. Well, like, no, I want to spend the rest of my life with him. So do I want to tell him in a year that I can't stand the dog sleeping in the bed? Or do I want to tell him like day one that didn't work for me? Because you want to do it right then and there. That is so important. We kind of have this little saying, it's from a poem, but it's like, you do you, I do me, and then if we do us, it's beautiful, right? But we have to be two separate entities, and we're allowed to have different opinions, but we need to support each other in those, and we need to make sure that we can bend where it's okay for us to bend, and have the conversations, right? And that's the key of that beautiful communication. And that's the fun part with us, is now we're starting to work together, I feel safe with it because we have such clear communication, because he's able to tell me when it's too much, or, he has some time to do something and I feel safe about that. He's able to, ask me questions, and I'm able to tell him when I'm like overwhelmed and I'm like, I can't really explain this right now. We can go back and forth and we don't take offense to it, because it's not that he can tell when I'm just, got a lot on my plate, or, I can tell when he's just got a lot on his plate, and we can have communication about it. We know it's not personal. Right. So it's this beautiful thing that comes from clear communication, is I know, because of the way we communicate, that he's going to tell me what's bothering him. And then he knows I'm going to do the same, and we're going to be able to accomplish these goals. So, it's kind of fun. I think this will be the first of many times you come on the podcast as my co-host. And I want to have some really great conversations. This guy is a wealth of knowledge in, things that we should be eating and fasting, and different ways to optimize our health and our wellness and our strength and our power, and just so many things. So we nerd out on all the professional development, personal development. And as we blend our business more together, and become full-time family, and are able to work both full-time from wherever we are, he'll be joining me a little more, I think. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, I think we're running close on time.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up.
So I'll kind of leave everyone on a little cliffhanger sort of a thing. Interesting thing about her and my relationship is, in comparison to all my previous relationships, which I don't just have like one high school sweetheart or two ex-girlfriends, something like that. I have over 20 ex-girlfriends, and every other single relationship, we're coming up on a year. Every other relationship has been really easy in the beginning, between the first like 1 to 6 months, usually around 3 months, I can tell it's not going to work out. They were really easy in the beginning, that honeymoon phase sort of thing. And then they just got harder and harder exponentially until it exploded, and it was a volatile exit to relationship. Well, with her, the only one out of all the girls that I've ever been with, we're almost at a year. It was actually challenging in the beginning, and it has gotten progressively easier and easier and easier.
Because we have the conversations. I don't shy away. If you guys know me, my dad actually said this to me the other day. He said, the thing he loves about me most is I actually don't know how to sugarcoat anything.
And I've gotten that feedback too.
So we're a little blunt and honest, and it's beautiful. But I just wanted you guys to get a little glimpse of this side of my life. And I love partnering with people in business, and I love helping other people create their financial freedom, their time freedom. I love bringing people into my doTERRA business and helping them succeed. And it's just a huge passion of mine. But I wasn't ever sure that I'd have somebody that I actually got to like link arms with in life and business. And I'm so glad that I do with you. It makes me so happy. So thank you for trusting me and always saying yes to these crazy things. And I'm like, do you want to come on my podcast?
Of course.
He's all excited. And I'm like, yes. Well, I love you. You're the best.
Love you.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. I hope you enjoyed this little glimpse at the inside of my life, my relationship, most important relationship in my life, right? Much more to come from us. So stay tuned. And yeah, I can't wait to see you guys next week on the podcast. We'll have another amazing guest here for you. And yeah, make sure you head over to YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're tuning into this. Follow me, leave a review, leave a comment, head over to Instagram, say hello. And we'll catch you guys next week on the podcast. Namaste.